What was ruined because too many people did it? Craft fairs. Now they're crowded with dozens of MLMs. I just want to find knitted slippers made by an old lady who clearly has a drinking problem, not more Norwex. Cooking shows. It used to be a few talented chefs who had shows to teach. Now it's every damn celebrity who can or cannot cook, making the same recipes as everyone else. The summit of Mount Everest is like a trash heap now. Airbnb. I used to love Airbnb years ago. Now it's pricier than a lot of decent hotels, and some of the house rules are nutty. My friend gave me a discount coupon for one. I compared it to a local hotel, and the hotel was cheaper with less rules. My hotel doesn't expect me to leave the room in pristine shape. I leave the towels in the tub and pick up all the garbage, but I'm not expected to vacuum and dust. The Appalachian Trail. People leaving their trash everywhere is really ruining the trail, and it's so freaking crowded now. People who litter on trails or campsites or in general annoy me greatly. If you brought it in, you are fully capable of bringing it out. Do you actually enjoy being in nature if you leave your trash there? People are pigs. I work in a store and people leave garbage and half-eaten food sample stuff in among the products. Adults blame kids, but there's no kid tall enough to reach the spots I found gross garbage. People could have a garbage can attached to their hip, and they'll still find a place on the ground to throw it. If you used to be one of the only few people around bidding on storage lockers, it used to be a fun hobby. I gave up on it because it became too popular and people are grossly overpaying for the lockers, which is oftentimes just paying to make a dump run for someone. Give it a couple years, the people doing that will run out of money eventually. In the meantime, you could go and not bid, then offer reasonable sums on anything that catches your eye to the people who have just bid too much. They'll be looking to quickly capitalize on the money they've just burned, and still riding high on the endorphins from winning on a big purchase. And you're at ground zero for quick appraisal and access to choice items. Might not work, but it'd certainly give you back some of the fun without all that risk. Plus, you might get to stick it to the people who keep you from your hobby. Thrift shopping. Yep, 15 years ago the prices were so cheap and you could always find a gem. Now they're always crowded and everything is overpriced, and you might find something good every 2 to 3 visits if you're lucky. I blame the online sellers. Our local thrift stores have people who go in when they open and drop a few $100s on stuff and then resell it on the Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, eBay, etc. It's not just thrift stores either. They do it at all the local discount stores. Retail arbitrage is the new entrepreneur. Streaming services. I miss the days of one single service, Netflix. Now every studio has its own service and holds its stuff away from services like Netflix and Hulu. Direct consequence, too many subscriptions. At this point, it's more economical to buy the stuff you want to watch. In my dorm room, there was a vending machine that, with just the perfect push of a button, would dispense 2 Sprites. For a few of us, it lasted around 6 months. Then they fixed the machine after one loose lip led to another. Open lips, snatch sips. Driving to work early. I used to do it, but now it's the same as the morning rush hour. Festivals. I used to enjoy going to some local festivals. Now they're just overcrowded and expensive. I can only afford to attend festivals that I perform at now. However, I live in rural Pennsylvania and the area has well-seasoned festival goers who are organizing small festivals on their property with local talent. These events have been much more enjoyable and they bring together the music and art community. Havasupai Falls in Arizona. I visited there in the early 2000s and it was beautiful with little to no trash. However, now many people have trashed the park and overcrowded it for a mere Instagram post, making wait times excessively long. I hold great anger towards people who litter in cities, but I am even more angered by those who litter in parks. What is wrong with these people? Why can't they clean up after themselves? For those who actually care about preserving the natural beauty of these places, please bring a waste bag and help clean up after these thoughtless individuals. Ad block. Now every website has a warning. It used to be a rare sight. COVID has had an impact on the national and state parks. Many people have not respected the land by leaving trash and tagging rocks with graffiti. Additionally, trails have become overcrowded. We were hikers and had to stop because the trails got wrecked. Human and dog feces, food waste, and loud music. Oh, I know, the music on the trails is infuriating. Like that defeats the purpose. There's so many things and places most people didn't know about prior to Instagram and influencers, visiting and taking photos there. Think Manhattanhenge in New York City used to be a cool phenomenon only cared about or noticed by some, but now everyone and their mother comes out of the lining and blocking the streets for something that was once a, hey, look at that kind of interesting thing. Now it's just kind of goofy. I thought Manhattanhenge was cool the first time I saw a photo. Then I saw 500 more of the exact same photo. Really takes away from it being a neat phenomenon. Especially now, where everyone's photos have 50 other people in front of them also holding up their phones. The Henge is just one example of this phenomenon. If you are into photography, especially of a particular niche or in a certain locale, and heaven forbid you post a photo of something unique that hasn't been done to death hundreds of times already, you'll get dozens of messages asking, "Where did you take this?" Because everyone and their mother wants to copy your shot. And once that happens, it's just like, a million of the same photo, and it's no longer impressive. There are also people who like to take photos of the moon or sunset aligned with different landmarks. This used to be rare and cool. Now if you go to that spot to get the same photo, dozens of big lenses and tripods will be stacked 5 rows deep. The same goes for wildlife photography. If you post a photo of an eagle's nest, people will want to find it to get a photo just like yours. They might get too close to the nest and not respect the animal, and as a result the bird goes away never to return there again. Etsy. It's all resellers that run fake craft stores selling cheaply made junk. There's a handful of crafters on Etsy, and the rest is Amazon resellers and cheap Chinese stuff. I've also noticed that Etsy is getting oversaturated with unoriginal girl who owns a cry-cut business. I know so many people who make mama bear shirts and live laugh love tumblers as a side hustle. Subscription everything, especially software. I want to buy Office/AutoCAD one time and use it for a decade. I don't want to buy it every year. A lovely counterexample to the trend is DaVinci Resolve. It's a serious video editing package used on proper films, and there's a free as in drink version and a paid for version. The free version limits you to 4K timelines, presumably because if you're cutting higher resolutions than that, you're making a proper film and can afford it. It also doesn't have some of the fancier effects and neural engine processing that the paid-for version has. However, other than that, there are no limitations. You can use the free version commercially for as long as you like. A license for the paid version is about $300, and it also comes free with some of the hardware they produce. Once you've got your license, that's it. It'll work on all the versions up to the current one. There's nothing that explicitly says they'll never ask you to pay to upgrade, but they haven't yet. I think their business model is getting the enthusiastic amateur market using it, and the few that go on to a career in filmmaking will then just go out and buy themselves a remarkably inexpensive PS6K or so digital cinema camera from BMD, and base their studio around all the control panels you can buy for it. Kind of like, we'll give it away for free because we know you're going to buy it next week anyway. I haven't bought it yet, but it's on my list for early next year because I want some of the cleanup and scaling tools that only work in studio. Whatever the hot new tourism spot is. For example, my grandfather used to spend weekends in Nashville when it was a more down-to-earth low-key town. Now it's one of the hottest travel destinations and is just swamped everywhere. Any place that has a bumper sticker that says "Keep X Weird," I automatically assume they're just banking on the copy/paste tourist crap every other city does. All those cities are too expensive for any actual weirdos to live there. The housing market. Airbnb. College almost guaranteeing a good job and career. It is not the ticket it used to be. Oversaturated. Nowadays, a bachelor's degree is like a high school diploma, except you pay 50 grand for it. A once pristine mountain lake that was peaceful and excellent for fishing and swimming was ruined by development. As I've previously commented, the pine trees surrounding the lake have been cut down and houses built everywhere. Discharge from motorboats and runoff from the development have polluted the once pure water. The fish are gone, and the air stinks of pollution instead of being lightly scented by surrounding pine trees. The house flipping trend has certainly not helped home affordability. It's good to make a junk house habitable again. It's not good to turn a 220 grand house into a 350 grand house. Also, there are so many home flips that are basically lipstick on a pig. Yes, those new granite countertops are nice, but the plumbing is still 70 years old and needs to be replaced. And now I need to rip out those countertops to get to it. Or they use cheap grade materials that don't last very long. I wish people would buy homes and fix them up to live in them instead of trying to turn a profit so they can buy someone else's place who did the same thing. Gotta love it when you go to see a listing and the house is immaculately staged, but there's still sawdust in the cupboards and the shed in the backyard still has all the paint and construction material that was used in the reno hidden away. Like, I get it, time is money. But couldn't the investors/flippers have spent the day just going through and tying up loose ends? It also shows that they probably haven't even checked to see if all the new appliances and fixtures work and are installed properly. And even though it looks pretty, there has been no thought to actually making anything functional. I remember going to see an old house that had been completely renovated, except for the basement. The basement was still in the same state it was 70 years ago. They had even left the old oil tank there, which means all that lovely hardwood that had just been installed would probably need to be ripped up if there was a plan to remove the tank, which would be likely because old oil tanks aren't really desirable in homes. Flying drones. Thanks to all the idiots doing dumb crap with them, it's not even worth getting into the hobby nowadays. You pretty much can't fly anywhere worth flying, need all sorts of permits, and are constantly risking hefty fines, or even being investigated for terrorism. No thanks. My dad flies RC airplanes, and he has some concerns about drone enthusiasts. They don't follow any rules at all, and since drones are pretty much easy to operate, almost anyone can get into the hobby. He just is worried that his hobby is going to require more rules and regulations, or perhaps even be banned due to too many people doing reckless things, like flying near airports, etc. YouTube. I miss the days of amateur videos, classic smosh, crappy but still entertaining music videos of video games, actual real reactions that didn't feel like a fake acted out script. Now everything is about fitting into the algorithm. With likes and subscriptions, obnoxious influences, YouTube is all clean, square, corporate, and sanitized. I won't deny there is also really good content to be found as well, but it's mixed in with a lot of crap. The 10, now 8-minute video goal to run optimal ads has also had a significant impact. Videos used to be a few minutes long, sometimes as short as 10 seconds. People edited the videos down or kept them short, but now everything is absurdly drawn out just to hit more ads. When I open a video and see it's 10 minutes and 2 seconds, I immediately close it because I know it's going to have up to 5 minutes of filler. Writing children's books used to be an art form, then every celebrity has written one. More like every celebrity has paid a ghostwriter to write for them. Drinking and doing drugs at work. Too many people did it and now we have HR departments. Visiting major historical sites. Most of them have been turned into badly maintained super expensive tourist traps. Add in the trash and the damage that tourists do, and yikes. Gettysburg is one of those places. Within the last decade or so, a lot of the museums have closed, only to be replaced by ghost tour companies, wineries, and breweries. I guess at least a quarter, if not more, of the local economy comes from ghost tours and alcohol. It is not the same town it once was. There's been a counter-movement in the past few years, to be honest. Sure, you can still catch a ghost tour or buy a touristy t-shirt if you want, but as far as history, it's everywhere in that town. The Seminary Ridge Museum, the Gettysburg Museum of History, and the soon-to-be-opened brand-new Adams County Historical Society Museum are all amazing places to visit, independent of the battlefield. If you haven't been to those places, I'd recommend them. That beach from The Beach. Shopping at Target. We had an amazing Halloween house in our small town within walking distance from my place. Every year, the family who owned it would bring in Hollywood-level props and lighting, and 10 or so actors in full regalia to replicate a Pirates of the Caribbean scene all around the property. The Jack Sparrow was a dead ringer for Johnny Depp. Every kid would get a bag full of real candy, not the mini Halloween stuff. Unfortunately, people started coming from other towns and it turned into a mob scene. It got to the point where cops had to direct traffic and they had to shut it down. Enjoying nature. Turn the damn music off, you inbred. Etsy. It started out as a legitimate community to buy and sell original handmade arts and crafts. All kinds of art made and sold by the artists. It was really cool. Then, as it started to turn a profit, it became something else entirely. Yeah, now it's hard not to find something that's also available on Alibaba or AliExpress. I found a few local shops that I've purchased high-quality handmade goods from, but it takes a lot more effort than it used to. When I was young, we had a tradition before our city's yearly festival started. We would each get a rubber boat, anything that floated really, and just drift in a nearby lake while drinking. The drift took around an hour or so. Then we would go to the festival. It started out with maybe 20 to 30 of us for a couple of years. Then some inconsiderate popular person took note of it. They had to turn it into some sort of massive event with musicians playing and calling for the media to come there, etc. It turned just a chill event with friends into something where you couldn't hear your own thoughts because there were so many people there. They even had to close it down after a while because some of the visitors littered too much. They left their boats and trash in the river, etc. The same thing happened in a university town not that far away from us. Some students started a festival where we played a more relaxed form of baseball. Sign up as a team, play a tournament. First prize was like a bottle of alcohol or some other small prize. It was completely free of charge. We slept in tents and drank, super chill and a fun thing. In comes the capitalist mind, turns the whole thing into some commercialized crap show where it's now the world championship tournament of that casual baseball. Huge entry fees, drink tents, artists. Like, what's wrong with setting up a tent, drinking a couple drinks, then playing baseball wasted, and just having a good time? No, we need to capitalize on this. Made both of those things boring as hell. National parks. Prior to like 2018, you could go to most parks without needing any hiking permits and would rarely have to wait in line. Because of COVID, every park in the lower 48 that is easily accessible is crowded. It takes forever to get in and you have to have permits for a lot of the best hikes. Anything can become ruined if it becomes popular to the point that increased interest dilutes the original idea or community so that it becomes unrecognizable. Reddit rabidly hates gatekeeping, but there's something to be said about maintaining standards as a way of preserving a group's identity. Some jobs, hobbies, interests are harder to get into than others, and that's okay. The surfing community is excellent about this. Surf breaks will very quickly fill up. And not a single surfer will ever tell you where they surf other than, oh, near that public beach everyone knows about. I have a secret surf spot in a state I don't live in anymore, and I'm taking that to my grave. This has been the default for fishing and mushroom hunting for over 100 years. Social media. Really enjoyed Facebook when you had to use a college email address. Before there was a timeline and the newsfeed was chronologically ordered rather than by most popular. Undergraduate degrees. We're experiencing a strange educational inflation where most jobs now require some form of higher education that previously didn't. I'm not suggesting education is necessarily a bad thing by any means, but it certainly drives a greater division between those that do and don't go. It used to be a 30-70 split, and now it is 80-20 as to the percentage of people that go and those that don't, a striking difference. As someone who previously worked at Starbucks, I was floored when I found out that to be hired as a manager, you need a bachelor's degree, and they pay you $20 whole an hour. Then corporate stands around and wonders why no one there wants to work. Everything that has to do with true crime. Some years ago, it was not popular at all, and you had to search for any documentary and/or website. Now there are extra TV channels, podcasts, magazines. Everything and everyone is an expert. What also bothers me now is how serial killers are now celebrities. I get that they're fascinating in a way, and what goes into them and their stories, etc., but people having serial killer themed parties and stuff? Bit much. Gatekeeping. It was so much better when only a few of us did it. My ex-wife. Moving to Austin. I grew up in Austin and moved away. Visited it years later, and man, has it changed so much. Apple picking. Orchards used to involve parking on a dirt lot, climbing trees to get the best fruit and paying per bag. Visiting a farm, that's it. Now there's admission, paid parking, hay rides, food stands, live music, photo-taking areas, etc. Feels like a tourist trap because it is. And at most places, you can't even pick your own apples anymore because too many people ruined trees by not being careful climbing them. Farmers markets. Now they're full of random people selling really weird crap and trying to hold you captive, and crazy people doing shows as they make them. I just want to buy my things in peace without being harassed, or buy good coffee without people there for the aesthetic. Living in Iceland has become difficult due to the country becoming a popular tourist destination. Prices have gone up significantly. Housing has skyrocketed due to factors such as Airbnb, and our natural monuments are slowly being eroded by thoughtless tourists. I'm a native, but I can barely afford to live here anymore. As mentioned a few times here, over-tourism. YouTube used to be a great place for information and entertainment. Now it's full of clickbait channels that just try to make money. And add to that YouTube's removal of being able to see the dislikes. That was incredibly useful when trying to find tutorials that were actually helpful. Facebook. I remember back when it was invite only and you had to be part of a network. We sincerely used it to post pictures and create events. Then everyone and their mom joined, and the timeline was created and everything was just awful. I remember being on Facebook when it was colleges only, and you could only connect with those who had a school email or attended that institution. It was huge when we were finally able to connect with our friends at other universities. Selling on Etsy. I worked my way through nursing school by crocheting my fingers to the bone and selling my wares on Etsy. I made a good bit of money and thoroughly enjoyed it. My little Etsy shop really took off too. Now with the influx of dropship people plus scammers trying to pass off their mass-produced crap as handmade, a seller would never be able to find my little shop. Use of the word Karen. For real though, I feel bad for easygoing women named Karen. Like as soon as they introduce themselves, people be like, oh crap, here we go. Burning Man. The old guard of the old hippies of yore are long gone. It's overrun by hedge fund college kids and raver frat kids. My friend went to Burning Man and described the festival to me. I think she thought it sounded impressive, but honestly it just sounded like a frickin' nightmare. Basically anything outdoorsy, such as hiking trails, national parks, and fishing spots, etc. It's fun when you're the only person on the trail, the lake, or at the campsite, but it's not so fun when you're hiking and someone is blasting their music on their Bluetooth speaker, when the lake is packed and people decide to fish 10 feet away from you and are obnoxiously loud, or you go to a national park and there is graffiti and trash everywhere, random people's names carved into the largest, oldest trees on Earth, and mobs of tourists taking selfies in the middle of the trail. People don't know how to respect nature. They don't appreciate silence. They don't know how to leave no trace or appreciate the natural beauty of the world around them. Podcasts. They used to be funny or insightful or informative or in some way valuable. Now anyone with a microphone and half a funny story thinks they should make a podcast. I feel like the good ones are still good. There's just more to filter through now. I've mentioned this before, but in the early 2000s, I got into record collecting. I got a record player from Salvation Army for around $5, and people would just give me records. I would buy boxes of records for $2 to $3 from garage sales. Even if every single record in there was not to my taste, who cares? I was out $2, and I usually got a milk crate out of the deal. I found so much great music that I probably would have never came across otherwise, and part of the joy for me was exactly that, finding new music to listen to. Now the same things that I picked out of someone's garage are $30 at a picked-over, over-organized store. And God forbid you want to get a recent release, the 150-gram audio file on Super Cotton Candy Swirl Double Album Deluxe or whatever the flavor of today will run you $60. You better pre-order so it can arrive at your door 6 months later than it was scheduled to, in a package that isn't fit to transport styrofoam and left in a puddle. And for crying out loud, I hate my post office driver. There was a fish sauce that Romans used to eat. No one is sure what the recipe was precisely, but accounts say it was delicious. Even if we had the complete recipe, we would never be able to make it. The Romans ate so much of it that the fish species they made it from went extinct. Photographers. When digital cameras first got popular in the mid-2000s, it was like an MLM. All your obscure friends and relatives you haven't seen or spoken to in forever are suddenly professional photographers and start hitting you up out of nowhere for photo sessions because they badly needed to pay for the one class they took, their camera, and the MacBook they bought. It got really weird for a while. The internet. It might sound strange because on a surface level it's richer and more accessible than ever, but the experience now is so much worse than what early internet used to give you. Z Library could read so many books before the dumb TikTokers made it go viral and had to shut it down. Thrifting. Having a dog. They're wonderful companions, and many working dogs do great jobs at their tasks. But there are so many people who have dogs that can't be bothered to do even very basic training. And so many people who are inconsiderate pricks with their dogs in public spaces, letting their unleashed dog charge others, start fights, bark uncontrollably, jump on people, crap on the trails, and not picking up after themselves. Climbing Everest. It used to be about accomplishing a truly formidable challenge. Now it's just a pissing contest for rich people with too much money to burn and not enough respect for nature and insufficient climbing skills. Elf on a shelf memes. Declaring their pets as service animals when they are not. thus making it extremely difficult for actual service animals to get their certification, or permission to be around to provide their service. Collecting of anything that becomes popular, such as comic books and sports cards, etc. The whole grading of items turns a hobby more into an investment than what it should be, a hobby. Having anything and everything graded by PSA is getting out of hand. You say you have a sealed Back to the Future VHS? Well, send it in to be graded. They're grading a box. Podcasts. Thrift shopping. You used to be able to go to thrift stores, not Salvation Army or Goodwill, mind you, and find great pieces for cheap. Then the rich kids ruined it. Now everything is overpriced. Geek culture. Back in the day, being into stuff like anime, Star Wars, and Star Trek used to be its own subculture. Now all of a sudden, being into geek culture is cool and has come out with a lot of crappy stuff lately. Tourism in general. Reddit. It used to be the social media that you could go to that wasn't overrun by idiots and kids. There are still some gem subs around, but for anything mainstream or front page, it's garbage. Real estate investing. Interstate 5 in Oregon. I'm sure someone has already said it, but US national parks, so overcrowded now by people who don't practice leave no trace principles, leave their garbage everywhere, literally crap on the sides of the trails, do stupid things for social media likes, etc., etc. Ruins it for those who love and respect the outdoors. Grocery couponing. Apparently, it only used to be done by a relatively small number of people, which is why they were able to get major discounts, but once word of it spread, grocery chains took them away. Theme parks. I went to one once on a weekday when it was supposed to rain years back. There was no one there, no lines for any rides at all. It was actually pretty fun. Every other time I have been was miserable. I don't want to wait in a 1 to 3 hour line for a 3-minute ride. Turning hospitals into for-profit companies. Driving in the UK. Black Friday. Sneakers. I miss the days of walking into Foot Locker and getting just about any pair, only a handful of unobtainable ones. For the longest time, people would tell me I don't understand why you like sneakers so much. Now those same people are into sneakers. I hope this fad dies quickly and we get back to a small community that actually likes them and not this trendy/reseller crap we have now. Influencers. TSA pre-check. Dogs. You can't go to any outdoor space without it being completely taken over by dogs and their owners. Thanks for watching until the end. Do you have an example you'd like to give? Please leave it in the comments below. Then be sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you know when our next video is available. For more videos like this one right now, please stop by our channel. Thanks again, and see you next time.